Welcome back, everybody. Police identifying a new suspect connected to the 1991 yogurt shop murders gave the victims' family members a chance to reflect on all those who had helped them get to this point. The sister of Eliza Thomas thanked an Austin nonprofit for giving her mother a place to sleep when she says that she felt unsafe to return back home.
Now, the group she mentioned was the Christi Center, which provides free support and grief help for people in Central Texas who have lost a loved one. Joining us today to talk about that work is Jocelyn Camara Barrera and Kathy Collins. Jocelyn here is the Christi Center's executive director, and Kathy is a crime victim advocate for the organization. So thank you so much to both of you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Talk to me if you can first. We'll start with those striking words yesterday. What was that like, hearing your organization and the work that it had been doing all those years ago commended and mentioned as still sticking with the family members who suffered so much because of this terrible crime?
Yeah. You know, it was good to hear that Sonora found so much comfort with our staff and our agency, because the work that we do is where nobody wants to come, right? We are at somebody's worst day. And so being able to just be there and be present for them is what we stand for. It's really important to continue having that support for people, especially in this time after losses like this.
Of course, Eliza Thomas's family found value in the work that you all provided, but what stuck out to me was that your organization has served more than 100,000 people since its founding, and particularly those who are seeking help in a time of loss. So take us back to the beginning about how this work all got started here in Central Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Dawn and Susan, the original founders of the Christi Center, they experienced a loss of their daughter, Christy, back in 1985. She was hit by a drunk driver at the UT campus, and when they figured out, you know, after the criminal justice system process, they found that there wasn't a lot of grief support, and people weren't really familiar with the grief world. And so they, 2 years after her death, founded the Christi Center to make sure that it was free and open-ended for people experiencing death, because we recognize that grief never ends. It continues, and it changes as our lives go forward.
Kathy, you are now a victim advocate, but
Yes.
This is a very personal mission for you as well. We'd love to ask about your story and how that impacts your work today.
I came to the Christi Center in 1990, and it was a time when there were a number of high-profile cases going on in Austin, crime victims. And then my parents and I joined the Christi Center. We were referred by APD. Little did we know that within a year, December 6, 1991, the yogurt shop murders took place. So the families came to the Christi Center, and they were able to get initial help, and that was just at the beginning. And I was coming, I had a lot of kids, I had 4 boys, and so I was very active with them, but I knew that this would be a good place for my parents, who also were there to meet with these parents. And throughout the years, Maria Thomas and I became very, very close. And Sonora had become very close to me also, because of, she was a teen, I had teens that were going through grief. My brother was murdered in 1990. Some of the detectives were the same ones that were on the yogurt shop. So I had an invested relationship going with this case, and it was so horrendous that I just felt like, as a crime victim, knowing what that was going to be like, and being old Austin, I'm a native Austinite, and seeing that this could happen in Austin was it just was hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah. And I see the button that you wear there on your jacket. Is that from the yogurt shop murders?
Yes, this is one of the original buttons that they gave out.
Wow.
And so whenever I go and accompany someone into the courtroom, I always wear this button, because I don't ever want anyone to be forgotten. Any of the families, loved ones, we need to keep their memory alive throughout years and years.
And I heard you mention a little bit about your work as a crime victim advocate.
Yes.
What does that all entail? Not just going to the courtroom, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
It entails working with crime victims, and we have crime victims that are referred over to us from the DA's office, from the Sheriff's Department, Williamson County, Hayes County. We've had a few victims referred from the FBI. So I initially meet with the families and try to get a grasp of what their crime was and where it stands with the criminal justice system. I help them to understand what their Bill of Rights is so that they know going in that it's about their loved one, and how in an informal meeting or formal meeting to not be hijacked. Let's go in there and let's let everyone know whose life was taken and how meaningful it was to them. So I feel like with crime victims, often they don't know what to do, and they're afraid. And so I'm giving them a voice in as much as I can walk them through, which also could be trials, also first parole board hearings. I can walk them through that and then continually let them know if they have any questions.
I heard the emotion in your voice talking about the yogurt shop murders case. Talk about what a resolution like this means for a family. I imagine there is still support needed even after knowledge like this, a breakthrough like this in a case or a trial. It sounds like your work is very lasting through folks' lives as they continue to be impacted by this.
Absolutely. It's like Sonora said, the brain becomes fractured. You know, the part where you wonder who did it, why was it done, and in some cases, people not knowing who the murderer was. And then if resolution, or as in this case, they discovered some information about a serial killer who was off the radar, literally off the radar, as he's continually killed people. For the families, yes, it ended, this is it, but there's still that space where there was a difference in their lives. Not having the grandchildren, not having the same family gatherings, holidays, going through life with the absence of knowing my loved one that isn't here. So now, it's like after trials. Often people say, well, there's got to be closure. And closure, I don't even like that word. I call it, there is an end, and that end does not mean that it's over for me, because the memories and the missing continues. And also, crime victims are affected by hearing what's on the news. Until you're a crime victim, it's really hard to understand what some people talk about or what they go through, and how it's life-changing and impacts people to the point where there's no hope. But for me, I try to give these people hope, because I got hope, even though my whole family seemed like it. My mother and father ended up getting cancer, grief gone inward, so I kind of lost my whole family. And when Sonora talks about that, I loved it, because that is so true. You get smaller.
And you help to understand, maybe by hearing from them, what someone is going through. Jocelyn, in our final few moments, can you just talk about, it's not just people who have suffered a loss because of a tragedy or a crime that you all are helping, right?
Absolutely, yes. So kind of what Kathy mentioned is grief is very isolating, right? A lot of people tend to not find their community within who they originally thought was supportive. And so at the Christi Center, we serve people who have experienced any type of death loss. And it's about building that community with folks who understand and maybe have felt what you've felt or experienced what you've felt. And so that's a big part of our mission, is to make sure that people feel that support and find their new community.
Jocelyn and Kathy, incredible work that you do here in Austin, and such an important conversation that we really wanted to make sure was not lost as this case is covered, and cases in the future, that these families are kept at the forefront. So thank you for the work that you do, and for giving us this insight today into what it looks like.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.